Hello and welcome to another phenomenal, I know it's going to be phenomenal, episode of The Optimize Show. I am David Mammano, your host. Every Wednesday morning we have a brand new show for you with just incredible, most cutting edge, insightful, thoughtful, helpful business leaders across the country, sometimes the world. Today we have on the show a great guest. She is in her home office. It's a beautiful home office you're going to see. Her name is Angela Cusack. Angela, welcome to The Optimize Show.
David, thank you very much for having me here. This is an exciting time.
So excited to have you here. We met through a mutual friend named Amy Gursky, who has been on the show. I think she was number 3. And she has a great company called Say Hi. And I believe you work with her and you guys work together into helping making the world a better place. And so I want to shout out to Amy for the introduction. Thank you, Amy.
Absolutely. Yes. And her company is doing phenomenal things and is a game-changing company, as the listeners have already discovered from her interview.
Yeah, very much so. And if anybody wants to check it out, sayhi.io. And hi has 2 I's, sayhi.io. So check it out. Amy, there's your advertisement. So getting back to you. So you are been an incredible thought leader. I'm going off your website, storyteller, which I love. Who doesn't love a good story, right? And any impactful leader has great stories, right? You are a speaker. You are a coach. You have a company called Igniting Success. You've been doing this for, I believe, 20 plus years, correct? So,
yes.
From what I've learned about you, you're different in a good way. You are helping others discover their true selves. Just getting to the core and helping them use those innate, God-given gifts to set the path for their life. But you say that's just the beginning, which I love, right? Let's get to the core, and that's the beginning, right? And what you do is you call it. Let's find your space in between, right? So I want to have you talk about that because you mentioned that a lot. Which is fantastic. You talk about experiencing experiences. Love that. I've never heard the same word kind of used like that, and that was terrific. You talk about don't be afraid to take the red pill, and we're going to learn more about that, which I love. What coach says take the red pill, right? So that's fantastic and makes you very unique. And you've been described by a lot of your clients as a secret weapon. Their secret weapons of success. So I want to learn more about that. And really, why are we here too? We're also here to celebrate this book that came out this year called Discovering the Matrix. And discover the Matrix, integrity, the true mark of leadership. It's a very different book. That's why I like it. Get it on Amazon, etc. It's a fantastic book. But this book came out earlier this year. In 2023, and very excited to learn more about that. So essentially, Angela, I've been talking way too much. So let's hear about experiences to the red pill and everything in between.
Well, so here's the thing, is that 25 years in the corporate space prior to leaving corporate to start Igniting Success was really the catalyst for a lot of what we read about in Discover the Matrix and the discoveries about the importance of vertical development as leaders. And really, this book is about really focusing on our vertical development as a leader in order to really right size the parts of ourselves that aren't always right sized. We cover it up with our biases or our set of beliefs that sometimes is often given to us. And we don't know how to unpack them or to get at the root of what has us move in one direction or another direction. And both in the corporate experience that I had, as well as in my current work with executives and CEOs predominantly, and actually a number of entrepreneurs like our dear friend Amy, it's really about helping them align what their beliefs are, how they've uncovered those, or what those beliefs are, how to uncover them to make sure they're right sized given the type of leader they actually want to be. So we do the work in this dark little crevice, I like to call it, the space between, that allows us just to get more clear about our integrity and not allow our ego, which is an important part of who we are, but allow our ego to take over and begin to be something somebody else wants us to be.
Tell us more about that. How can, I believe all great leaders do have an ego, and
Yes,
but it's how you use it, right? Are you using
correct.
it for good? Are you using it for bad? How can a leader take their ego and really kind of navigate it for a good direction for their lives, of course, and for the company and the people working in that company?
Yeah, the first part of that is recognizing that the ego without attention will take over. It becomes our central operating system. And our ego likes to please. Our ego likes to perform. Our ego likes to get praise and approval from people outside the external source. But our ego also needs attention on the interior side of who we are, that vertical aspect. And when we give it that attention, we have the ability to actually navigate where our ego shows up and how it shows up for the benefit of the whole, in contrast to just gathering more riches while other people are losing riches.
That's great. So tell us more about your book. Tell us more about the matrix and the space in between. What is that all about?
Yeah. So again, it's about that vertical development. And this book is a book that, as I write, I've spoken about inside of it, is that it came about over a 20-year, 25-year period of time. And it wrote me. It showed up one day, and I just started to put pen to paper. And the Matrix is this idea from the movie, right? Who doesn't love the Matrix, the movie? About how we navigate in the intersections that show up in our lives that require us to do that looking internal, or that the aspect of ourselves that we tend to overlook. We don't take the pauses. We don't step aside because we live in a hurry up, fast paced, got to get it done now world where knowledge is everything. And we turn on the TV, and what do we see? Late breaking news. And it only increases our anxiety as human beings. It gets in our way of being able to take that pause to say, and who am I in relationship to all of this? And so the matrix is a way of stepping into that space and reflecting at the start of every day, in the middle of every day, and at the end of every day, and asking ourselves some really fierce, doubting questions that allows us to get to the heart of who we are and the reason we've been put on this planet in the first place, and to lead from there, in contrast to, again, what other people, organizations, boards of directors expect us to be.
What are some of those hard questions that we should be asking ourselves when we make that space?
Yeah. The first one, if you know what your values are, every day looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, Angela, today, one of my core values is to take care. How am I today going to take care? And articulate it for ourselves first thing in the morning, at the end of the day, on the way home. If you're driving home or you're closing up an office like the one that I'm sitting in and leaving to go make dinner or whatever, going out to dinner, is asking ourselves before the end of the day, how did I do today? Did I take care in the way that I promised myself I would take care? And take a real assessment. It takes a matter of minutes to do. The practice is powerful. And that fear doubting question arises in, can we balance? Can we step into that space between and look at every aspect? Did our intentions of taking care, did it actually show up in our actions? And can we evidence in the impact that we had that particular day? So often, our values are something that we espouse. We tell people, this is what I care about. My values are to trust, to have integrity, and to be respectful. But we profess them, but we don't always take action on them because our ego and who we think other people need us to be outweighs it. So That's step number one, is to take a look at that. Step two would be to notice what are our biases that get in our way. Sometimes those biases are familiar to us, like our recency bias. Many of us will lean into that particular bias. Other biases are less familiar to us. But once you understand what some of those biases might be, which is also contained in the book, you can begin to then look at yourself every day and ask those same questions. How did I navigate or manage my typical conditioned bias that I have? What are the questions I need to hold on to throughout the day to make sure I don't fall into the drift of life as it's always been? Because I want to be a leader who leads from integrity with integrity so I can create teams and organizations that have integrity.
Yeah, that's incredible. So what I'm hearing from you is a lot of people, and maybe most people, are somewhat or a lot out of alignment because they're letting other people's, what they think about them, their expectations, dictate, influence how they should act. And then you add in the biases as well, you know, your environment, what you're brought up with, to also dictate. And so what you're saying is really to take a deep breath and ask some powerful, meaningful questions to really make sure and question yourself, are you in alignment with who you really want to be, who's in your core, who's in your soul? And I'm going to guess the answer quite often is no. Maybe even for you some days, right? I mean, and those are some of the things that you help with, right? Is let me teach you how to, you know, continually, because, you know, a piano needs to be tuned all the time, and so retuned and retuned and tuned, right? And so do we, right? I mean, we get out of alignment as well. We get off tune as well. So what are some things that you do when you first start working with a leader to kind of assess where they are, and then maybe some sample action plans just to get started? Because leadership today is tough. You know, not only are you trying to run a P&L and trying to be innovative, and trying to take care of your team, that's just a small part of the picture these days when it comes to being a leader, right? It's like you're running in an open field with a bunch of arrows coming at you, right? So it's hard to get out of alignment because you're just so scattered. So what do you do to kind of, quote unquote, stop the bleeding and help the leader really kind of get in a good place to start moving forward?
Well, you know, you're highlighting the answer within your question, which is leaders serve many masters. And the master they don't typically recognize that they need to serve is that part of them that they overlook because it's a hurry up, fast paced, got to get it done world. And I have a board of directors that I need to satisfy. I have clients I need to satisfy. I've got a boss I need to satisfy, right? I've got team members I need to satisfy. And so the first is to recognize leaders serve many masters. And as we all know, it is absolutely lonely the higher up in the organization that you go. And so without having a partner to be able to unpack what is occurring for me, for you on a day in, day out basis, it becomes very difficult. It becomes very easy to just get consumed by the multitasking, doing nature of being busy, right? Because that's the way our society is wired. We're wired, we've come to this place of busyness means I must be doing good work. But busyness is not necessarily at all what produces the good work. It's how we focus, where we focus, with what level of intentionality do we focus. So within the plan itself, bringing a level of awareness of there are multiple masters. Busyness isn't the answer to your prayer. Being super focused and intentional on that focus is. And more importantly, getting back to the book for a moment, it's this place of saying, can I begin to understand what triggers me, what upsets me? Because here's the thing, in our environment, we are going to find frustration, we're going to feel overwhelmed, we're going to feel joy, we're going to feel happiness, we're going to feel excitement. A lot of those emotions are going to bubble up. Some of us have had the good fortune to arrive in leadership, having been able to examine a lot of those emotions and our physical embodiment of them, and to understand they tell us a story. We make up stories about them, yeah. And so helping leaders begin to identify what in the environment causes me suffering, pain, dissatisfaction, disappointment, and beginning to take note that it isn't about the other person that's wrong, meaning I'm not going to blame them. I'm not going to produce an excuse around that. I'm not going to shame someone. Instead, I'm going to turn that inward and I'm going to ask what part of myself needs to be resolved. Am I fearful is going to be identified by somebody else because I see it in someone else? I'm having that experience with someone else. So we talk about experiencing the experience. It really is taking whatever isn't pleasant or is pleasant external to us and begin to wonder, what does that tell us about ourselves? Less so about the other person. So to give you just a quick example about that, we hear leaders all the time saying, I do anyway, maybe you don't, David, but I am 100% clear. My team should know exactly what to do. I am the best communicator on the face of the planet. They should absolutely understand what I mean. You know, Angela, what I really think you need to do is I think you need to work not with me. I think you need to work with my people because I'm clear. I'm 100% clear.
Yeah, they walk on water, right?
Walk on water, right? But who hasn't heard a CEO, an executive team, or a startup entrepreneur say, hey, I'm not very good at communicating? They really do, right? Arrive at that place of it's somebody else and not me. But in that type of action plan, we're able to take a look at that and help them realize, are they really making a good request? Is that request really a declaration that's covered up as a request and they really want somebody to do something that that person isn't able to take action on, or they're not clear that they have a choice in the matter?
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you're saying. Years ago, when I was running my first company, I had about 20 employees, and I thought I walked on water. But I brought a consultant in and said, have you do 360s on all your employees, your team. Have you ever done one on yourself? And then let your team, give you feedback on that 360. And I said, no, why would I have to do that? I think they're happy. He's like, give it a shot. And so I had them do the assessment on me. And then I had my management team. I told them that you're charged with taking all the feedback and presenting to me. I said, and I do need the good, bad, and ugly. And they were like, well, you're our boss, Dave. You can fire us. What if there's a lot of ugly? And I said, well, I will let you go if you don't give me the ugly. So I want it all, And so they gave me the feedback. There was 4 of them, and a lot of it was wonderful, right? And then there was a lot of it where things that I needed to work on. And what you're saying, the number one thing I needed to work on is that they could tell that I wasn't really listening to them. I would ask for feedback, I would ask a question, and then they could tell I listened for about 5-10 seconds, and I checked out, because I'm thinking about the next business opportunity, yada yada, right? And so I really took that to heart, and I thanked them very much. And then I went overboard. I would ask people how their weekend was when they came in on Monday, and they would give me a quick answer, and I'd be like, no, tell me more. And I would just go down this path of really listening to them and asking more questions. And maybe that I went too far because they're like, all right, Dave, you're listening too much now, But it was very, very helpful. And another leadership coach I went to is, whenever there's a problem with your organization, the first thing you should do is go look in the mirror. And ask yourself, what is your role? What is my role in this situation? If the leader just did that, that'd be transformational, right? Like, there's a fire.
Absolutely.
What is my role? And I just heard a really good quote. I'm going to mess it up a little bit, and I don't even know who it's attributed to. But it goes something like, whenever there is a knife in my back, I always find my fingerprints on it. And I was like, that is good.
That is good.
And so, and I'm hoping more and more leaders, as we become more enlightened, especially through COVID, I think a lot of leaders have become more empathetic, compassionate, and more willing to look at themselves. I'm sure there's a lot more work to be done, but it does seem like the next level of leadership enlightenment, right? I mean, when we look at the 80s, HR was called, what was it called? What was the name of it? It was like a different department that had no meaning whatsoever. And then they finally, change it to human resources, right? And now it's like talent development. There's not, it's more appropriate names, right? So, how do you feel? Do you feel like some great progress is being made as you do your work more and more for the past 25 years?
I do, particularly obviously with those that I've had the chance to work with. And I do keep up with many of those companies and clients inside of those organizations. Some of them, many of them actually have gone from being an executive to being a CEO of a different company inside of the industry or outside of the industry. And there's always um, and that's rewarding to actually see that they've taken the work very seriously and they carry it forward with them. There's one particular individual that I worked with actually inside of the corporate space who today is a CEO. When I see his posts on LinkedIn, I get so warm. I feel very warm seeing and knowing how he was at one time in his life and how he is today and how he's using his integrity to actually amplify exactly what I point to: his team, his culture, and then identified in the brand. Because ultimately, this thread of integrity, we're looking for it to be pulled all the way through, not just for the leader to hold it, but for the leader to be able to amplify the team to create peak performance inside of the organization in order for the client experience to be so sound that it is a reflection back into the culture, that somebody who isn't an employee or a team member has the same experience that a client has. When we have that, which is my ultimate goal, I'm saying game changer. Not yet seen it happen, but I will say, David, it is the goal, the aspiration. It's what I'm driving to. And some companies have gotten pretty close. But the larger the company, the longer it's been around, quite frankly, it takes time, it takes commitment, it takes effort, and it takes, back to talent management and talent recruiting, it takes us being really clear about the quality of person that we want to bring onto the team, not just based on the results that they claim that they've done somewhere else, when we don't know how they were when they actually delivered those particular results.
Yeah, fantastic. We have a company here in Rochester called Wegmans. Perhaps you've heard of Wegmans, right? I mean,
Yes.
they're really only in the Northeast. They're starting to expand a little bit more. They've been around for 100 plus years. But for the vast majority of those years, they were just in like New York area, upstate. Now they're a little bit more. But, it's been in their DNA to do exactly what you're talking about. I mean, people say, oh, the customer comes first. The customer's always right. Wegmans is like, nope, the employees come first. Because we know if we get that right, it's going to ripple to the customers, to the vendors, to everything else. And that's why they've been on the Fortune Best Place to Work numerous times. And we're talking like the top of the list. And they're only in a part of the country. They're not Whole Foods that's nationwide, et cetera. So, Danny Wegman, who's the current CEO, and he's the grandson of the founder. I heard a story one time that they were in a meeting about they were like doing new product development, and everybody had an opinion. And then Danny at the end said, no one's really talked about like what does the customer want? Have we talked to our customer? Do we know what they want? And I just thought, like just leading with that type of leadership, right? What lesson was that for everybody too? So that was a great lesson, not only for business profitability, but for the other leaders in that room, right? So, yeah. Well, Angela, this has been fantastic. I could talk for hours and hours. We try to keep these somewhat short because of today's attention span, but super, super fantastic. I'm forgetting now, what part of the country are you in?
I am coming to you live from right outside of Orlando, Florida, on the other side, closer to Daytona, not near Disney World. So I don't have any magic dust to sprinkle necessarily.
You only have race car dust, right? So, yeah.
I do. I do.
Very good. Well, I'm going to hold up your book again. All right. Discover the Matrix. I imagine it's on Amazon, et cetera. If people do want to learn more about you, get in touch, have a conversation, what is the best way?
Yeah. Angela at ignitingsuccess.com. Happy to correspond and email. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm always out there posting, as David probably has already seen. So pretty frequent about sharing what's going on in terms of my perspective on things, thoughts, love to engage in conversation. And certainly go to my website, ignitingsuccess.com. And there's a phone number. You can reach me that way as well. So let's open a conversation. Let's be in dialogue. Take a look at the book. Can't say it enough when people ask me, so Ange, how is the book doing? And I say, I don't know. I don't know how it's doing. And they're like, well, why don't you know? And I said, well, Austin McCauley's publisher is taking care of all of that. But what I can say is it's not provoking enough of the conversations that I want the book to provoke. So my encouragement is call me up. Let's be in conversation, just like David and I have. Let's explore what's in here. Let's explore what's on your mind, because it could shape the way that I'm thinking about things. And if we do that together, well, we've stepped into that space between we're taking that red pill and we're going to make magic.
Let's enter the matrix together. Excellent, Angela.
That's right.
Thank you so much for your time and everything
Thank
that
you.
you're doing for the world. You're really putting your, as Steve Jobs would say, a good dent in the universe, your own personal dent in the universe. So thanks for doing that and helping leaders all over the world. Appreciate that very much. And again, thanks for your time, and I wish you massive continued success.
Thanks.
Thank you, Angela. And I want to thank everybody listening, watching to the Optimize Show today. We appreciate you. We want to spread this to the rest of the world. If you're watching this on YouTube, like us, share us, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to our channel. We would love to have that. Thank you so much, everybody. More episodes every Wednesday morning. Go to our website. We have a ton of episodes on there as well, past episodes. Love you all. Have a great day, and make sure to stay awesome.